Just going to circle back to one of our top stories this hour on EU accusations that Belarus is instrumentalizing migrants to destabilize the bloc. And for more on this story, we can speak to Yves Bertoncini. He's a consultant on European affairs. Thank you very much for joining us tonight here on France 24.
You.
I wanted to start by asking, where does this bad blood between the EU and Belarus stem from?
Well, basically, first, the fact that Belarus president has been elected improperly, so it has been condemned, and it has not been acknowledged that he was a legitimate president of Belarus. But against this background, of course, the fact that he now probably uses migrants as a tool to put pressure on particular Baltic states makes the situation even more tense between the European and Mr. Lukashenko. So, and then the Europeans try to react to this, including by showing some solidarity vis-à-vis Lithuania and quite a hard stance vis-à-vis the Belarus regime.
Just how exactly is President Lukashenko's government actually doing this? How are they sparking this sort of crisis, if you will, among these Baltic states?
Well, apparently there are alleged attempts. I mean, it's just like Mr. Erdogan did it in the past. You know, Mr. Erdogan in the past, he even organized some transfers of population through Turkey towards Greece to put pressure on Greece and the Europeans at large. So apparently, what is stated on the ground is quite the same attitude from the Belarus government, which shows openness to the migrants coming through its territory to Europe and then putting them easily to the borders of Europe, putting pressure, and then, yes, using migrants as a tool, not because it's humanity, no, it's realpolitik and trying to retaliate against the pressure put by Europe on other grounds, which are the lack of democracy and hostile measures taken by the Belarus authorities within the context of their allegiance to Moscow.
And what does it say about Europe's migration policy that such a small country like Belarus can put so much pressure on a
You're
27
right
member
to say
bloc?
that it says a lot. You know, the migrants crisis at large. I mean, it's about who are the migrants. Are they victims or are they threats? So first, the Europeans are divided on this. But more importantly, those seeing, well, hundreds, sometimes thousands of migrants as threats give an enormous power to Mr. Lukashenko and others, or Erdogan yesterday. Because if the situation was more, let's say, the Merkel German style, you know, we can do this, we can handle this, these people need us, and we can, yes, we can do something for them. In this case, of course, the leverage effect for Mr. Lukashenko would be much lower. So what does it say from on Europe of Europe? It says that we are many Europeans in general and some European leaders in particular are too weak to afford saying, well, there are migrants, we can welcome them. So of course it says something else. It says also that the Europeans would like to shape better their neighborhood, the inflows of migrants, not to only be seen as a passive actor, you know, trying to face these flows, which comes from East Africa, Eastern Asia, the Middle East. And this is also a challenge for the Europeans, more united, to be stronger and to try and shape their neighborhood, which they can't really do, which is another negative point as regards Europe as it stands today.
Right. And even on this subject of, putting up physical barriers to prevent people from coming into their countries, the European countries aren't even agreeing on whether to do this because Lithuania and Poland want it, the others don't. So, why haven't these countries been able to band together to think up a coherent migrant policy, especially after 2015?
We are the same, but you're right to refer to 2015 because at that time, Mr. Orban decided to build a wall around Hungary. First, when you do this, you don't solve the problem. You just put this to the neighbor because the migrants or the asylum seekers, they can go to the neighbors. There is two major deficits. First, a deficit of trust because, the Lithuanians or the others are supposed to control the external borders of Europe. So you could say, well, if they build a wall, they're going to control it for sure, much more firmly. But on the other side, if the migrants come, I mean, a wall you can open, there are doors. And then if they come, who should keep them? And then there is a solidarity deficit because normally, and there were attempts to relocate the migrants because when they come to Lithuania, by the way, they don't want to join Lithuania with all due respect. They want to join the European continent. And then the Lithuanian authorities could say, well, not only will you control, you criticize us, but also if they get to us, you don't want to take part of them. And so there is a twofold deficit, a trust deficit on do you control properly, and then if so, do you take a part of the migrant flows? And then the Europeans are facing this twofold deficit for, yes, at least a decade, and at least since 2015.
Okay, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for you, Bertoncini. Thank you very much for your time today here on France
Thank you.
24. Now,